Hello, everybody. It's so nice to see you here. So I'm Community Health and Groups Associate at the Centre for Effective Altruism, and I'll tell you a little bit about what the Centre for Effective Altruism is a little bit. But I'm here to tell you a little bit about what Effective Altruism EA is, just in case you came to this weekend not really knowing what that was. So, I mean, good on you if you did that and leapt into the unknown. And if you're new and this is the first time interacting with effective altruists in person, you might find that there's some kind of unusual aspects to our community and the people that we have. So I want to give you a little bit of a heads up about what sort of things you can expect over the weekend, and then some tips for the conference. So that is the plan. And yes, please write questions down, because this group is mostly newer people. If you have questions for me that are, I don't know, more in-depth or require background knowledge of effective altruism, then maybe we can just have a chat about them later rather than asking them in person today, in the session today. Cool. So, definition of effective altruism, well, actually, there's a whole stack of different definitions, but I'm going to give you my favourite one and then tell you how that relates to the sort of slight uniqueness of our community. So this is Will MacAskill's definition, and he's a Scottish philosopher. So the idea is that there's two aspects. The first aspect is the use of evidence and careful reasoning to work out how to maximise the good with a given unit of resources. And then the second part of it is the project of actually doing the good. So first part is the intellectual stuff, the working stuff out. Second part is the doing good. So there's a lot kind of to unpack there. One is, what does good mean? Nobody knows what good means. There's moral philosophers working on that forever. But the tentative idea that we have is impartial welfareist. So welfareist, about quality of life. So we're generally, tentatively, about improving the quality of life of any beings that can have quality of life. They can have positive or negative experiences. Impartial means that we're trying our best to be unbiased about who we care about. One thing I quite like about this definition is that there's no shoulds. So some people feel like there is a moral duty to do as much good as they can in the world, and that's fine, that's great. Other people here are oh, I don't feel like I have a moral obligation. In fact, I don't even really believe in moral obligation maybe, but I still really want to do good because it seems fun or a nice thing to do. It also says a given unit of resources. It's not saying you have to dedicate your entire life to this project of doing good. Everybody has their a whole variety of other values and priorities in their lives. So you'll probably find here people seem pretty obsessed with doing a lot of good. We're obviously going to geek out on effective altruism ideas this weekend. This is not all we are, even though that might feel like that this weekend. So just to give you a heads up about that. So this leads to a few different aspects which I want to cover that you guys might come into contact when you're having conversations with people. So I'm just simplifying it to using resources to maximise good. One is the broad moral circle. If we're going to be trying to be impartial, we're trying to think about what beings are deserving of our assistance. And if you think back through history, there's loads of moral atrocities that have happened as a result of having a group of others that we consider not worthy of our moral attention, or maybe worthy of our attention in a really bad way. So slavery, genocide, homophobia, a whole bunch of awful, awful things have happened in the past and are still happening now because people have not widened their moral circle to include caring for certain other groups. This just because it happened in the past and we think, oh, okay, we're enlightened now, we've got a wide moral circle, because there's a a pattern in the past of people being moral atrocities coming from like not caring for people that we, or others that we should care for. We try and like say, well, are there beings that we should care for now that we're not as a society doing so? So animals being non-human animals, obviously we're animals too, non-human animals being one. So last night we heard from Emma Hurst, who works in government, the New South Wales government, to try and improve the quality of life for a whole bunch of animals. And like, I think most people will go, oh yeah, pigs matter. Obviously we still farm pigs, but what about chickens? What about fish? What about insects? And like you might say, well, does a cricket feel anything? Well, I don't know, but like it's really important for us to think about it, because if they do, and we're committing a moral atrocity by not caring for insects when they do feel, maybe that would be kind of bad. So let's investigate it. So that means that sometimes you might have finding conversations. People are caring about things that you're like, I've never thought of caring about that thing. Like, I don't know, shrimp farming and how they deal with the eye stalks of the shrimp. You know, some people here can like talk for hours on shrimp welfare, and maybe you've never thought about whether we should care about shrimp or not, but that's kind of what we do around here, and I think it's really interesting. Maybe it's worth thinking about. We're not going to know unless we explore it. Cool. Another group that maybe we're not caring for enough in today's society is future generations. So I've got this from Our World in Data, is just a little kind of visualization of the potential sizes of the future. So if we represent one little triangle as all the people alive today, so that's about 8 billion people, that's humanity's present. And if you have sort of a certain definition of like when modern humans were evolved, we have humanity's past as 14 triangles, so 14 times the number of people that are alive today have ever been alive. I don't know if we can improve their quality of life. I mean, I tentatively think no, but, you know, if you can think of ways that maybe we can, you know, let's talk about it. We've got a broad moral circle. But another group that we maybe can influence is humanity's future. So if you take like a sort of guess that like maybe humans as a species are going to last as long as the average species of mammal in like the geological history, we might be around for another 800,000 years, which sounds cool. And if we did that with a few other assumptions, like a similar population to now, we might have this many. This is, I think, I wrote my numbers down. 10 trillion people yet to be born, which is way more than the people that are alive today. And that's a lot of people. And when you think about like all of the depth of experience that you have as a single person, like the happiness, the sadness, the bewilderment, the learning, the creativity that each individual person has, like that's a whole bunch of feeling. And then that's just the humans. There's all of the other potential species, potential different living things that could be alive, having like rich and like diverse lives. So that's a lot, and that's only if we're like a typical mammalian species. We kind of maybe not typical. We've like gone to all of the continents of the Earth. We're in the sort of taking small steps to like leave our planet now. Maybe we're like super adaptable and we can like be many, many more than this. And the mind boggles. But also maybe some aspects of us that are unusual for a mammalian species could mean that it could be many less than this, much less than this. So since the invention of the nuclear bomb, we've had the capacity to destroy us all, and that's kind of crap. And we still have that technology, and we're getting more and more technologies, such as engineered bioweapons and advanced artificial intelligence, which maybe could be really, really awesome if it goes well, but could be really devastating if it doesn't. So we've got a big future, which could be even bigger than this, and maybe we can influence so that future is positive and really awesome. So that could be part of our moral circle. So that was the broad moral circle. Another thing that people talk about a lot, which was mentioned last night, is cost effectiveness. So, or it could be time effectiveness. It's like whatever resource you have, effectiveness. And to make sure that each of us only has a certain amount of time, energy, money. We want to do the most good we can with that. And that requires sometimes a whole bunch of maths. So you'll find a lot of maths geeks people here, which are cool. And there's also another aspect that comes up a lot, which is cause prioritization, which was also mentioned last night. So that's like there's loads of problems in the world. It's, I don't know, I find it kind of crippling. Before I got into EA, I found it really crippling about like, I could do all of these things. I feel guilty about not solving all of the problems. But this is like, well, we can't solve all of them. Let's prioritize. And a common heuristic is like, let's go for things that are big in scale, cause a lot of problems for a lot of different beings. They're tractable, or we can, I guess, make some progress towards solving them, even if we can't 100% solve it. And maybe it's also good to look at things that are neglected so that other people aren't already working on it. So maybe your impact can have an outsized difference to that problem. And that kind of like leads us quite a lot to that kind of broad moral circle thing. Like if nobody's caring about shrimp except for you, like that's a pretty neglected field. And so it really does push members of the effective altruism community to maybe some kind of weird ideas from most people's perspective. So, unusual aspects. Pretty open to unusual ideas often. We're really into truth-seeking. Don't always get this right, but this is like a goal that we aim for. It's also called Scout mindset. So it's not like be prepared, Boy Scout mindset, but it's like if you were it's like the analogy is like for like an army, and you had a scout that would climb up to a high point and look for signs. Where is the other army? How big are they? And that they're trying to find the truth, as opposed to the soldier who is not trying to find the truth. They're just trying to push their own side. So they're going for the scout mindset rather than the soldier mindset. We all basically here have like the same goals or very, very similar goals. And so my experience is that the cooperation in our community is like unusually high compared to other communities that I've worked with, compared to other fields that other careers that I've been in. So you might find, that person's, I don't want to ask this person for a favour, but actually if you ask them for a favour, it might be exactly what they want to do to help them achieve their goals as well. So, I mean, you could say, that person's really nice, or you could say, they're selfishly trying to achieve their goals through me, but it works out that we're cooperative, and I go for the nice idea. A lot of people are driven in the community, and you might find some pretty amazing people who are trying very, very hard to do a lot of good. Not everybody. So there's some pretty chill people who are here and love the ideas and like interacting with people, but you will find some driven folks. Sometimes we get a bit technical and jargony, and I just want to say, if you people are using jargon or they're using acronyms that you don't understand, it's probably because they just got a bit excited and carried away and didn't sort of think about what shared understanding they might have with you. So do stop people and go, what does RCT mean? What does FHI mean? What does whatever? So please do that. People are usually really happy to be reminded, and that will help them do a better job of communicating with you to help the shared goals. And you might notice as well, there's a lot of people here from pretty similar background, especially, including an academic background. I'm not sure whether there's like a consequence of what EA is, or maybe it's like sort of an effect that like some people tend to attract people like them. They have friends from their universities. They talk in different ways that are really like appealing to certain demographics of people or certain backgrounds. So you'll probably find that meeting people today, there's a lot of people from sort of quite academic backgrounds, a lot of sort of science and computer sciencey backgrounds. Sometimes that's cool, like those people are useful, but it also might mean that we've got some blind spots, places where we're not finding opportunities that we might otherwise have if we were a bit more diverse. So if you're a person who like, oh, I don't know if I really fit here, I don't have a similar academic background, that possibly means you're particularly valuable, and please share your perspective. Cool. So I just want to say a few things about different organisations. There are like, I looked on the EA Forum last night. So the EA Forum, which is forum.effectivealtruism.org, that's like a place where everyone shares lots of ideas. It has a list of nearly 200 different organisations associated with the effective altruism community. So it's kind of a big, diverse community. It's not like, you might be able to think of it as like a small version of like environmentalism in structure. So there's no like one environmentalism group, there's a whole network. And so we're kind of a bit like that, not quite as big yet. But so some groups that you might find, or organisations that might be useful for you to know about, is there's local effective altruism groups. So in all the major cities in Australia, I think, there's a local effective altruism group, and in many universities, there's groups of people that hang out together and learn about these ideas and encourage each other to make a difference. There's the Centre for Effective Altruism. It makes it sound like, that name makes it sound like we're like the middle of everything and we control stuff. Actually, the name Effective Altruism came when the Centre for Effective Altruism was trying to work out a name for their organisation, and then the community took on the name. So it's kind of a little bit awkward, and that like, I don't know, it makes us sound like we're the centre, but it's more like a weird kind of semantic thing. But anyway, we're an organisation and we try and improve the community coordination and sharing ideas. And this event today, this weekend, has been put on by a combination of local effective altruism groups in Australia and New Zealand and the Centre for Effective Altruism helping out. Rob Wiblin, you met last night, if you came along, from 80,000 Hours. That's a great organisation to know about if you're wanting to look at your career to do good. You also would have met Luke and Grace from Giving What We Can. That's a fantastic resource and organisation if you're looking to use your money to do good. There's like excellent advice. So this is just like 4 of like 200 organisations, but ones that are particularly useful. I did want to highlight another 2 organisations that like people talk about a lot because they've made a big difference in the trajectory of the community. And in fact, a talk a little later that Ollie Bass is giving might be highlighting some of this some more, and that is some other funders. So Giving What We Can has like a network of thousands of people that are donating to high impact charities, but there are a couple of really big donors as well, Open Philanthropy and FTX Foundation, that have come online in the last few years, which means that there's lots of money coming in from the broader community, but there's a few larger organisations that provide quite a bit of funding, which means that we've been able to grow. And we're thankful to them to actually provide a bunch of the funding for the conference that we're having this weekend. So, tips. Michael already went through some of the tips I was going to say. But anyway, I think it's good to set aspirational goals and more down-to-earth goals. The biggest impact that we think the conferences have is from a few people making a big change to how they do good and being inspired and doing something really cool as a result of being at a conference. So yeah, it's good to do aspirational even if you don't achieve them. And when you're thinking about your goals, work out who you'd need to talk to and what you'd need to ask them in order to achieve those goals. So aim high, say, I want to talk to that person. Maybe they'll be too busy to talk to you, but maybe they'll be really excited to talk to you and will help you achieve your awesome goals. You also might be able to help others. So use swap card, find somebody else that you might be able to help. And finally, use your time thoughtfully. So prioritizing one-on-ones or workshops over talks, because the talks are being videoed, that's a great idea. And seek what you need. Seek advice, seek connections, seek explanations, and take breaks as well. So that's my tips. I guess I'm ready for questions.
I realised when I first mentioned there was a little bit of ambiguity there. So just a quick reminder, if you do have a question, jump on Swapcard, navigate to this event. You do need to tap live discussion, and then from there, there's a questions tab. Now is a really great time if you've got a question. Please let us know. I'm sure Catherine is dying to hear from you. We didn't have any questions come through so far when I last checked.
We're just a small group, though, so if we don't have very many questions, we could just do it live if you guys are okay with that.
Definitely.
Any questions?
Not yet.
Well, does anybody want to ask a question then live? Hopefully that's all right. Yes?
So I'm a first year uni student. I haven't been here way too long. I kind of feel like I don't know what questions to ask if I go into that and often I just don't feel like I've got much to contribute to the structures of the people who are doing leading research and stuff like that. Is that, am I overthinking things?
I mean, I feel like you're thinking just the same amount as like everybody, I guess. And that like a lot of people are like, oh, how much impact can I have? I don't know if I'm supposed to be here. This is just super common. I mean, if you're a first year university student, I guess I don't feel like you should expect to be able to necessarily help a bunch of other people with their career paths, but they could be helping you, and then through your actions, you could be helping them with their goals anyway, because we have all these shared goals. But yeah, I guess come into conversations and be curious. So if you like look through the swap card and go, oh, that's kind of an interesting bio, or what does this organization do? And you're allowed to like dominate the one-on-one by just asking them a whole bunch of questions and just like trying to download as much information from their brain, and that's totally fine. So yeah, just slurp up knowledge, I think, if you're not sure how you can contribute. Yes?
Would you regard effective altruism as an inherently politically progressive movement, or do you think that there's room for political conservatives to be a part of it as well?
I mean, I think there is room for political conservatives. There does seem to be like a pretty decent bias towards when we do have a few surveys where we survey members of the community, and there is a lot more left-leaning people. Yeah. I think, yes, room for conservatives, and yes, they also, like, if you have one more sort of liberal-leaning effective altruist trying to do good through, like, political means, then that's fantastic. But like one new sort of more conservative effective altruist type person trying to do good probably will have a bigger impact because it's more neglected. So yeah, I guess maybe that's particularly useful. But yeah, there is this bias right now.
We have had a couple of questions come through on Swapcard
cool.
now. So one question, Ethan's asked, are there workshops to figure out personal goals for the conference? And I'm not sure if he means working out personal goals for a successful conference or a workshop at the conference to work out personal goals. Check Swapcard if there's a workshop at the conference for personal goals. That sounds great. Actually, in some previous conferences, there have been meetups like 3 days before the conference to like plan your conference, which I don't think we had that, but you can always just sit down with somebody over the morning tea and say, hi,
do you want to help plan your conference with me? And do that if you want some sort of accountability to plan it. I definitely encourage you over morning tea to like have a think about those big goals and have a look through Swapcard.
We've got another question come in. Do you have any go-to questions that are really awesome to start a one-on-one with?
I quite like asking people, like, why are they here? Why are they excited about being, like, learning about effective altruism and what kind of cool things that they want to do to make the world a better place? I know that's not that cool or exciting, but yeah.
There's one question here about your day-to-day role. I don't know if you'd want to chat about here. Yeah.
What's
your day-to-day look like, Catherine?
Most of my work is in the community health team at the Centre for Effective Altruism. I also help out individual EA groups, but a lot of my day-to-day is just like talking to, like, I often have like Zoom calls with people if they're having problems in their community. Maybe there's like there's the effective altruism group, maybe there's some issues, there's some like disruptive people. So sometimes I have conversations about that to try and like, how do you make a better community? How do you make it more cohesive and positive? Also do a lot of like risk tracking. So effective altruism getting like really big, and we are like going into new geographic locations. We're going to new like going into the political action happening and various other kind of fields. And each time we kind of expand, there's like ways that could go really well and ways that could maybe not go so well. So I talk to lots of people and try to do analysis and help with strategic plans when people are moving into new spaces with effective altruist ideas.
Awesome. We've got one more question here. Sophia wants to know, how do you balance a priority area that has high benefit cost ratio with neglectedness when choosing where to work?
Yeah, I think I mostly look at like what are the different, like what is the expected value? So like across all of the possible different outcomes for each of those two things that you know go into career A versus career B, which has like the best outcome and expectation. So that's averaging over all of the possible outcomes, whether they're positive, negative, and just sort of adding them all up and saying which one's the best one. I know that's kind of like, I don't know, just sort of a boring mathematical answer, but...
No, not at all. Yeah, that's a great answer. Alrighty, if no one has any more questions, we might call it there. Maybe one more round of applause for Catherine. Thank you very much.
Thank you.